Our story today is about Badr, a young man at the beginning of his adult life. Like any young man about to marry, he wanted to isolate himself in a new home. After a long search among apartments and buildings, he finally found an apartment that suited him. He rented it and began preparing himself for a new life. In the first few days, everything seemed normal. He adapted to the place and explored its corners until he met his neighbor, Nasser, a friendly man who welcomed him and exchanged words with a sincere smile. Badr felt at ease with such a kind neighbor beside him, as if the apartment was beginning to transform into a real home. One evening, a young boy named Salman knocked on the door. He seemed kind and quiet. Badr welcomed him and seated him in the guest room. They talked briefly, but Badr had to go to the bathroom. When he returned, Salman had vanished without a trace. Badr tried to convince himself it was simple. Perhaps the boy left unnoticed, but a strange feeling weighed on his chest. The next day, while returning from the grocery store, Badr encountered a strange man standing in front of the building door. He introduced himself as the building's caretaker and spoke to Badr as if he had known him for years. Badr didn't suspect much, feeling reassured by the presence of a caretaker. Yet a question lingered in his mind. Why did Salman disappear suddenly? And why did this caretaker seem to have appeared out of nowhere? Thus, the first threads of mystery began to weave around Badr, signaling that his new life would not be what he expected, but would lead him into a world full of secrets and shadows. Badr could not remove the image of Salman disappearing from his mind. He wondered, was it just an illusion, or was something larger happening in this building? Yet he tried to live his life normally, going to the grocery store, returning to the apartment, and sometimes sitting with Nasser, who always seemed calm and reassuring. But one night, while Badr was cleaning some old items in the apartment, he felt that the strange noises were becoming clearer. He heard repeated knocks on the wall, as if someone behind it was trying to get his attention. The sound was not fleeting. It continued for days, until Badr began to think someone was living with him unseen. He decided to seek help from the caretaker he had met earlier. He went to the room the caretaker had mentioned. He knocked loudly, but the door seemed old and abandoned, as if it hadn't been opened for centuries. Suddenly, Nasser rushed down and said, "Why are you knocking on this door? This room has been abandoned for hundreds of years. No one lives there." Badr felt confused, realizing that the caretaker he met was not an ordinary human. Fear began creeping into his heart, but he remembered Nasser's advice. Keep up your prayers at the mosque, so you won't be deceived again. Then Badr realized he was not facing mere illusions, but embarking on a dark journey into a world unseen by most people. Badr began to feel that the apartment was hiding secrets he didn't know. The noises pounding on the wall were no longer just whispers but became strong knocks, as if someone was trying to break through. He tried to ignore it, but each night he heard the same sounds, whether sitting in the living room or lying in bed. One night, as he tried to sleep, he felt a strange movement under the bed. At first he thought it was just his imagination, but the sound grew clearer, as if someone whispered to him, "I see you." Badr shivered, trying to move, but his body was paralyzed, unable to move anything except his eyes. Suddenly, a tall, featureless black figure appeared in the room, moving quickly from corner to corner as if watching him. The scene was terrifying, and Badr felt as if his breath had stopped. The figure approached him, reaching its hand toward his face. In that moment, he felt himself sinking into a heavy sleep, yet he was certain it was not a dream. When he woke up in the morning, his body was exhausted, as if he had fought a long battle. Realizing that this apartment, was not just a place to live, but a gateway to a dark world that pursued him relentlessly. After the terrifying night with the black figure, Badr tried to convince himself it had been just a heavy nightmare. But the events didn't stop. Once, while returning to his apartment, he entered the elevator and found a strange woman standing beside him. She didn't press any button, nor did she answer when he asked which floor she wanted. The situation grew stranger when the elevator stopped at every floor, yet no one entered or exited. Stranger still, it bypassed the 4th floor where Badr lived and went straight to the 5th. While looking at the mirror inside the elevator, he saw his reflection clearly, but the woman had none. His heart shivered, and he tried to recite the Quran, but his voice vanished entirely, as if something was preventing him from speaking. When the elevator finally reached the 4th floor, the door opened, and the woman turned to him, speaking in a cold voice. "Get out." Badr exited trembling, reading the Quran with difficulty until his voice gradually returned. That moment made him realize that what he faced was not mere illusions, but entities trying to control him, and that his apartment had become a stage for unbelievable events. After a series of strange events, Badr began to feel that the apartment had become a dark trap surrounding him. One night, while trying to sleep, he heard a familiar voice calling him. "Badr, Badr." The voice sounded exactly like his mother's, yet he knew she was not in the house. His heart shivered, and he locked the room door to protect himself. Suddenly, he felt the door slowly open and saw from the corner of his eye a woman entering. She called him in the same gentle voice, but she was not his mother. Her appearance was strange, her features blurred, and her eyes empty. She approached him, repeating, "Come, Badr, come." He tried to stand, but his body was weighed down by fear, as if something prevented him from moving. Summoning his courage, he turned to the door and saw the black figure standing there, smiling a cold smile, then forcefully closing the door and disappearing. Badr remained frozen, sweating, realizing that these entities didn't only pursue him in wakefulness, but also infiltrated his weakest moments between sleep and consciousness. That night, Badr understood that confrontation had become inevitable, and he had to cling more firmly to his prayers and Quran recitation to protect himself from this dark world that hunted him mercilessly. A few days after the elevator woman incident, Badr still found no peace. One night, while walking late on the street, he noticed a small child sitting beside a car, crying bitterly. He cautiously approached and asked, "Why are you crying, little one?" The child lifted his hands from his face, revealing a featureless face, a mere empty void that terrified Badr's heart. He froze in place, and suddenly the child ran away with astonishing speed, disappearing into the dark alleys. Badr shivered and returned to his apartment, wondering if the child was real or just another illusion of the haunted house. The next day, he decided to ask Nasser about it, hoping he had an explanation. But Nasser completely denied seeing such events, seeming not to believe Badr at all. This increased Badr's confusion, convincing him that no one else could see what he saw. He felt the apartment and the whole building were trying to isolate him from the world, drowning him in a spiral of horror and visions that became tangible reality. After seeing the faceless child, Badr became convinced that there was a great secret linking all these events together. He returned to Nasser to ask about Salman, the boy who knocked on his door on his first day in the apartment. He asked directly, "Nasser, do you know a neighbor named Salman?" Nasser looked at him in surprise. "Salman? There is no one by that name in the building." Badr froze, feeling the ground tremble beneath him, realizing that everything he experienced with Salman had been part of this terrifying mystery. Badr began connecting the events: Salman's sudden disappearance, the abandoned room, the strange caretaker, and the faceless child. Everything pointed to a hidden force manipulating his life. It was no longer just sounds or shadows, but a network of entities appearing in different forms to confuse and frighten him. That night, Badr sat alone in his room, recalling the details of his encounter with Salman. The boy's innocent smile, his brief conversation, and his mysterious disappearance. He felt that Salman was not an ordinary child, but perhaps the first sign that the apartment was haunted. With this realization, his fear increased, but he also began to think that the only solution was to face the truth, no matter how terrifying. After discovering that Salman had not existed at all, Badr felt that everything he went through was not mere coincidence, but a series of interconnected events leading to one truth. His apartment was haunted. He no longer doubted it, especially recalling Salman's sudden disappearance linked to the entities appearing at night. He decided to seek help and went to a man known for reading the Quran and performing spiritual healing, Ruqya. He sat with him and recounted everything since entering the apartment: the strange caretaker, the abandoned room, the black figure, the elevator woman, the faceless child, and even the voices imitating his mother. The man listened calmly and said, "Badr, your apartment is haunted, and these entities do not want you to have peace. You must cling to your prayers and recite the Quran constantly." Our story